Are you tired of blank bases for your minis? Today we're going to add a little something to the bases, and who knows, maybe it will look good in the end. Unfortunately, I didn't record any of this, so some pictures that I took with my phone have to suffice for this video. The minis I'm going to use for this video are plague marines, however, not this ones. I unfortunately didn't finish mine yet. I was way too excited to do the basing for them, so I kinda left that work a little bit unfinished. So obviously you would choose something that fits the overall style of the plague marine, some decayed, diseased kind of ground covered in mud, something like that. I decided against that because it's also the first bases I'm doing for myself and I wanted to go a little bit with a different style. Both works, it's really up to your taste what you do. So for this particular basis I decided to go with like that rocky canyon kind of style. I thought I really would like to see them on them. So first off we need some bases. Now unfortunately I already have glued my miniatures to the bases, which I had to remove. Now, in the process of removing I broke the bases somewhat in half, which is fine if that happens to you as well. Just super glue them together, it's not a big deal, because the next step will cover any sort of damage that has been applied to the bases before. We're going to apply some chunk of clay. This is normal modeling clay. A little tip here, if you apply a bit water to the clay and somewhat smear it to the base and model it afterwards, it really glues itself to the texture that the base has. I'm not so sure if that's that efficient. If the base is very flat, then probably if that happens just afterwards when the clay dries out, just apply hot glue and it should work. The next step requires a bit of background. I very early on was not that satisfied with just super gluing the miniatures permanently to a base or scenery. I like to have the option to move them around. So although I'm definitely not the first one, I did not saw that many people using this by simply applying magnets to the minis and therefore being able to just move them between surfaces that also have those magnets. And to achieve that, it's fairly simple. I'm using for this particular example a 3x1mm magnet that I was lucky enough to have already on hand, a drill that had somewhat the same diameter as those magnets. One thing that was a bit difficult is those tiny magnets don't have their own identification of their polars, so which one is up, which is down. So what I did was fairly simple. I just marked it with a permanent marker, so I always knew which side is up, which side is down. Next up, once the clay is dry and you applied the magnets to the mini itself, you want to place the mini on the base and somewhat in your discretion see where it fits well enough, and with a marker of sorts draw the outline of where it will stand upon, which is extremely important for the following steps. So once you know where the mini will sit on the base, you can go ahead and measure out where the equivalent of the magnets will sit on the base itself and drill some holes there. We will not apply the magnets just yet. The magnets are a final step. The previous applied outlines also provide us with some guideline. As you can see, I already added some sort of pillar. Because of the outlines, I knew exactly that it would not obscure the miniature or touch it. And like that you can apply whatever you want really to the base. You know the area of which you can build. Doing the props is something that deserves almost its own video, which I will just brush briefly through. As you can see, I made a couple casing of numerous skull types, demonic, humans. I like to actually make way more than I ever going to end up using. It's not really a waste because you can always use them later on, but I like to have in front of me as much choice as I can apply, so I can try around, place a couple of them and see what works best. So here is just what I applied on the basic structure, some sort of pillar with a couple skulls to decorate it even further. This is the best time to apply any sort of bigger structure you want to add to your scene. Next I used a carving tool to carefully carve out and applying that canyon, almost wavy look to it as best as I could, making sure to leave the marked areas of where the mini will stand untouched. Generally you can really apply almost any tool you can imagine, and I really encourage to just try out. I had no idea if it would turn out well enough for myself, and just all you really lose if it goes wrong is a couple grams of clay. And while I was at it, I made sure to clean my props, in this case the skulls, of any excess of resin and get them somewhat decent looking. I like to keep the bigger bits that are basically trash, because you never know when you want to add some sort of debris, and for that specific purpose those broken off bits that differ in size are just perfect for that, so you don't have to go through the trouble of making it on purpose. You just have it on standby, as much debris material as you ever need. As I was carving, my dog decided to show up, and I took the opportunity to snap a picture. I was a bit conflicted at the beginning because unfortunately a week after this picture was taken he passed away, but I decided to keep it in the video because I wanted to use this picture at the beginning regardless, and it is the last picture I have of him, so see you on the other side, buddy. So moving on, we apply our first layer of paint. Hopefully you do it better than me and actually apply a good primer first. I made a huge mistake in that regard, but it turned out well enough. So after your first layer of paint, you want to apply multiple layers for the shading, and just to get those details popping out a little bit. In this case I applied various shades of reds to really get that canyon popping out a little bit on some details. I also went ahead and started painting already the details such as the skulls and this magical pillar that I added as well. After your paint is dry, you can start to apply numerous sorts of debris or plants, whatever really. You can also go ahead at this stage and with super glue put the magnets in position. Make sure you position them with the right side facing up. And that's it. Here is the somewhat final product. As I mentioned in the beginning, the minis aren't finished or painted completely, but they are on top of the magnet. Unfortunately, I can't show you how strong the magnets are. Just take my word for it, you can perfectly hold them in your hand and shake them even a little bit and the miniature will not move an inch. As a final touch, you can paint the very bottom of the base with a different color. I choose just black to stand out a little bit and mark a clear division. You can do that or not, it's up to you. And yeah, that's it. Now you have your very own made, custom, somewhat scenery base. I was pretty proud of the end result. It looked pretty good for what it is, for such a small time investment and pretty much being a first try attempt. So I'm pretty proud of that, and if you could learn, however, anything from this video, then the message would be to just try. I was a bit lucky, it turned out somewhat decent. I could definitely have made much better, but I was satisfied enough to not just throw it away and start over. But if that's the case for you, then that's just the name of the game. Like you saw in the video, I didn't use anything expensive, it's really just your time investment, and go practice. Hopefully, if I ever decide to make another video like this, you will see what this will be eventually, maybe, God knows. Anyway, thanks for watching, hope you learned something, and see you maybe next time.